Welcome home, Lady Stark. The North remembers.
The North remembers is a common theme that occurs in Game of Thrones.
The North remembers.
But I think the North actually forgot. We started to hear the North remembers amongst the people of the North after the Red Wedding. Many Northern lords, even those that did not love the Starks, would say the North remembers. And this was because they lost men at the Red Wedding. Lady Dustin, for example, she loathed the Starks, Ned Stark in particular, but she did send a token force with Robb Stark. And Dustin men were killed at the Red Wedding. Viserys also had a phrase in reference to his family being wiped out. That phrase is "the dragon remembers." Two wipeouts. One is represented by the dragon remembers and the other is represented by the North remembers. But I feel like that is misdirection. The North remembers seems to mean something much deeper. And the same could be said as the dragon remembers, but this video is about the North. Things got murkier and murkier the more I looked into the phrase "the North remembers," and I figured this was one I couldn't keep to myself because sometimes I do end up down rabbit holes and I'm like, I'm not telling this to nobody, they're gonna think I'm crazy, but this one I had to share. The North remembers seems to be an ancient phrase, like in some way house words of the North itself. This phrase was only later used to indicate that the Northerners who lost men at the Twins would not forget the Red Wedding. There's a few reasons that I say this. We first hear the North remembers before the Red Wedding from Robb Stark himself. There are sons who hate their fathers, and in a stroke you will make him Lord of Carhold. Robb shook his head. Even if Harryon were that sort, he could never openly forgive his father's killer. His own men would turn on him. These are Northmen, Uncle. The North remembers. So Robb uses the phrase "the North remembers" before the Red Wedding. When you look at the conversation between Alys Karstark and Jon Snow in A Dance with Dragons, there's something that stands out to me. When the snow falls and food grows scarce, their young must travel to the winter town or take service at one castle or the other. The old men gather up what strength remains in them and announce that they are going hunting. Some are found come spring, more are never seen again. It is much the same at Carhold. That did not surprise him. When your stores begin to dwindle, my lady, remember us. Send your old men to the wall. Let them say our words. Here at least they will not die alone in the snow, with only memories to warm them. Send us boys as well, if you have boys to spare. As you say. She touched his hand. Carhold remembers. What exactly is it that Alys Karstark remembers, or the Carhold remembers? Is there some secret that the North forgot? She's definitely not talking about the Red Wedding. For one, her father was killed by Robb Stark before the Red Wedding, and all the Karstark men had left Robb, so she did not lose any men at the Red Wedding. So no, she has to be talking about something else. But what is she talking about? So then we have House Royce, which is an ancient house of First Men blood. Their house words are "we remember." But hey, what do you remember? Let's look into House Royce. House Royce are First Men. Their ancestral seat is the ancient castle Runestone. Bronze young Royce has bronze armor thousands and thousands of years old, engraved with magic runes that ward him against harm. In the show, we can see the ancient runes on Lord Royce's clothing. Their sigil even bears runes upon it. When Samwell Tarly is at the wall trying to find information on the White Walkers, he tells Jon this: "Tell me something useful. Tell me of our enemy." The others? Sam licked his lips. They are mentioned in the annals, though not as often as I would have thought. The annals I've found and looked at, that is. There's more I haven't found, I know. Some of the older books are falling to pieces. The pages crumble when I try and turn them, and the really old books, either they have crumbled all the way or they are buried somewhere that I haven't looked yet, or, well, it could be that there are no such books and never were. The oldest histories we have were written after the Andals came to Westeros. The First Men only left us runes on rocks. So everything we think we know about the Age of Heroes and the Dawn Age and the Long Night comes from accounts set down by Septons thousands of years later. The first men only left runes on rocks. They didn't need to write anything down. They didn't have to, because the North remembers. But this still does not tell us what the North remembers, or what House Royce remembers. I think men have forgot. They forgot the children of the forest. They forgot the White Walkers. They forgot the power of the old gods. They forgot what they should have always remembered. When Bran is in Greenseer School at the cave beyond the wall, Bloodraven tells him something interesting. Your uncle may have been named for me. Some are, still, not so many as before. Men forget. Only the trees remember. The trees remember. The weirwood trees do remember everything. When Bran taps into the weirwood net, he literally downloads the history of past events right from the source. What do the trees remember? The secrets of the old gods, said Jojen Reed. Food and fire and rest had helped restore him after the ordeals of their journey, but he seemed sadder now, sullen with a weary, haunted look about his eyes. Truths the first men knew, forgotten now in Winterfell, but not in the wet wild. We live closer to the green in our bogs and crennigs, and we remember. Earth and water, soil and stone, oaks, elms, and willows. They were here before us all and will still remain when we are gone. So Jojen is speaking about the truth the Northmen knew but had forgotten. Is that truth the secrets of the old gods? But what were those secrets? Do all the birds have singers in them? All, Lord Brendan said. It was the singers who taught the first men to send messages by raven. But in those days the birds would speak the words. The trees remember, but men forget. And so now they write the messages on parchment and tie them around the feet of birds who have never shared their skin. Firstly, in the books, the children of the forest are called singers. I don't want anybody to be confused. But that statement suggests that the first men were not only taught the secrets of the old gods, but they were all taught how to warg. Pay attention to his words. It was the singers who taught the first men to send messages by raven. But in those days, the birds would speak the words. The trees remember, but men forget. And so now they write the messages on parchment and tie them round the feet of birds who have never shared their skin. This seems to imply the birds spoke the words because the first men shared their skin or warged the birds. The North forgot. A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies, said Jojen. The man who never reads lives only one. The singers of the forest had no books, no ink, no parchment, no written language. Instead, they had the trees and the weirwoods above all. When they died, they went into the wood, into the leaf and limb and root, and the trees remembered. All their songs and spells, their histories and prayers, everything they knew about this world. Maesters will tell you that the weirwoods are sacred to the old gods. The singers believe they are the old gods. When singers die, they become part of that godhood. So not only do the trees remember the histories and past events, they remember the spells of the children of the forest and their songs and everything they knew about this world. If the spells are trapped inside of the weirwood, Bran needs to only access them to see what kind of magic created the Night King and what kind of magic will destroy him. But the North forgot. They forgot the old gods. They forgot the children of the forest. They forgot the White Walkers. In the beginning of the story, Ned doesn't believe the deserter from the Night's Watch even saw a White Walker, and he regards the children of the forest and the White Walkers as crib tales. You listen to too many of old Nan's stories. The others are as dead as the children of the forest, gone 8,000 years. Maester Lewin will tell you they never lived at all. No living man has ever seen one. Until this morning, no living man had ever seen a direwolf either, Catelyn reminded him. I ought to know better than to argue with the Tully, he said with a rueful smile. He slid ice back into its sheath. You did not come here to tell me crib tales. I know how little you like this place. The Northmen forgot, but the trees remember. Once you have mastered your gifts, you may look where you will and see what the trees have seen, be it yesterday or last year or 1,000 ages past. Men live their lives trapped in an eternal present, between the mist of memory and the sea of shadow that is all we know of the days to come. Certain moths live their whole lives in a day, yet to them that little span of time must seem as long as years and decades do to us. An oak may live 300 years, a redwood tree 3,000, a weirwood will live forever if left undisturbed. To them, seasons pass in the flutter of a moth's wing, and past, present, and future are one. Nor will your sights be limited to your godswood. The singers carved eyes into their heart trees to awaken them. And those are the first eyes a new green seer learns to use, but in time you will see well beyond the trees themselves. This is what the North remembers. The North remembers they don't have to remember because their gods do it for them. The old gods. It is the old way that they live by. All the weirwoods in the south are gone, in the west, in the east, but in the north, every castle has its godswood. In every godswood its heart tree, and every heart tree its carved face. The North remembers. This video was really fun for me, but I want to know what you guys think of the North remembers. What do you think it means? As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that's supporting me on Patreon, especially right now with everything that's going on with YouTube. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.